The crash and the cry. The night sky burned with streaks of fire as a small human shuttle broke through the clouds, shaking under the storm. Inside, alarms screamed, red lights flashed, and a man's rough voice echoed through the metal walls. "Hold on, Lily. Hold on." Ethan Cross gripped the controls, sweat running down his forehead, his eyes wide with fear. The planet below looked like a sea of lightning, endless deserts of glowing blue sand and dark valleys filled with storm clouds. The ship was falling too fast. Lily, a small girl with tangled blonde hair, clutched her stuffed rabbit to her chest, whispering, "Daddy, is it gonna hurt?" Ethan forced a smile even as the engines died. "Maybe a little, kiddo, but we'll be okay." Then everything went white. When Ethan opened his eyes, the world was silent. The air smelled like metal and smoke, and his ship lay broken in half among black stones. "Lily," he shouted, his voice shaking. No answer, only the crackle of fire and the wind howling through twisted steel. He stumbled through the wreckage, pushing away debris, calling again, "Lily." The sound of soft crying came from somewhere ahead. Faint but real, he ran, slipping on the sand, following the voice until he saw her, standing in the open, barefoot, staring at something. In front of Lily stood a tall figure, not human, not at all. Her skin shimmered like silver under the moonlight. Her hair long and white, moving as if it floated in water. She wore torn royal armor, broken and scorched. But her posture was proud. In her hand, she held a staff made of glowing crystal, its light dancing across the dark ruins. Ethan froze, his breath caught. He had heard about aliens, the Solari, a race humanity had fought long ago, and this woman looked exactly like one. He reached for his blaster, his voice low, "Stay away from her." The alien woman slowly turned her gaze toward him, her eyes deep blue, calm but filled with sorrow. "I mean no harm," she said softly, her voice like wind through glass. Lily looked up at her, then at her father, confused. "Daddy, she helped me. She pulled me out of the fire." Ethan's grip loosened. He noticed a burn on the alien woman's arm. Still smoking. She had saved his daughter. He lowered his weapon, breathing hard. "Why?" The woman looked at the child and whispered, "Because once, I had a daughter too." Her voice trembled slightly, then fell silent. For a long moment none of them spoke. Only the sound of wind and distant thunder filled the air. Ethan didn't trust her, not yet, but he saw something human in her eyes. Pain. As in kindness, Lily took a small step forward, her voice small and innocent. "What's your name?" The woman hesitated, as if the word was hard to remember. "Sarai," she said. Lily smiled. "That's pretty." Ethan rubbed his forehead, torn between fear and gratitude. "All right, Sarai. Thank you for saving her. But we need to fix the ship and get off this planet." Sarai's eyes turned toward the broken wreck, her expression distant. "You won't leave soon, human. This world swallows machines and men." Before Ethan could answer, the ground trembled. From the fog beyond the cliffs came low growls, not human, not animal. Sarai turned quickly, her eyes narrowing. They heard the crash. Ethan pulled Lily close. "Who?" Sarai raised her staff, light bursting from its tip. "Hunters. Scavengers that feed on metal and blood." The shadows moved closer, dozens of red eyes glowing in the mist. Lily screamed, and Ethan pointed his blaster toward the darkness. Sarai's voice cut through the chaos, firm and commanding. "Stay behind me." The creatures leapt from the fog, long bodies covered in bone plates. Claws sharp as blades, Sarai struck the ground with her staff, sending out a wave of light. The first creature exploded into dust. Ethan fired beside her, his shots bright against the dark. For a brief moment, human and alien fought side by side. No words, just survival. When the last beast fell, silence returned, heavy and cold. Ethan's chest rose and fell with exhaustion. He looked at Sarai, her armor cracked, blood on her arm, but her eyes still shining. Lily ran to her and wrapped her little arms around her waist without fear. Sarai froze, shocked, then slowly placed her hand on the girl's head. The moment was quiet, pure. Ethan opened his mouth to speak, but Lily beat him to it, whispering softly, "Mom, she's the one." The words hung in the air like light. Sarai's eyes widened, her hand trembling. For the first time in years, her heart beat faster, not in battle, but in feeling. Ethan stood frozen, not knowing what to say in that strange moment. Under twin moons and broken skies, three souls who had nothing left found something they didn't expect. Connection, and from that whisper everything would change. The exiled queen. The dawn came slowly on that strange planet, pale light crawling over the broken mountains. Ethan sat beside the wrecked shuttle, his face covered in dust, working with shaking hands to repair the radio. Every few seconds he looked up to where Lily sat on a rock, talking softly to Sarai, the alien woman who had saved her life. It still felt unreal, the crash, the monsters, the silence that followed. But what confused him most wasn't the danger. It was the way Lily looked at Sarai, as if she had known her forever. Sarai stood tall, her silver skin reflecting the morning light, her armor cracked but regal. Her eyes moved across the land, endless ruins, fallen towers buried under sand. This was her world, once filled with song and starlight. Now only ashes and ghosts remained. She whispered to herself in her own language, a melody of grief. Ethan heard it and felt a strange sadness rise inside him. Even though he didn't understand a word, Lily ran toward her, holding something small in her hand, a metal feather she had found near the wreck. "Look what I found, Mom," she said, smiling wide. Sarai froze, the word Mom hitting her like thunder. She knelt, her voice gentle. "Lily, I am not your mother." The little girl tilted her head. "But you look like one," Ethan called from the wreck. "Lily, don't bother her." But Sarai raised her hand slightly, her voice soft. "It's all right." She touched the child's hair, her silver fingers brushing against human warmth. For a moment, a memory flashed. A small Kalari girl laughing in golden fields, a warship's shadow rising over the horizon, and then silence. Sarai's heart tightened, her breathing heavy. She turned away before the humans could see her tears. "Who are you really?" Ethan asked after a while, his tone cautious. Sarai didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, filled with a mix of pride and shame. "I was a queen once, ruler of the Solari, until I refused to destroy your kind." Ethan stared at her, shocked. "You started the war?" She shook her head. "No, I tried to end it." The wind howled across the ruins as she told her story. How her council had demanded the annihilation of humanity, calling them dangerous, uncontrollable. How she had refused, believing peace was possible, and how her own generals had betrayed her, taking her throne and sending her into exile on the same world her armies had burned. "This planet," she said, her eyes on the distant horizon, "is my prison and my punishment." Lily's voice broke the silence. "Then why did you help us?" Sarai looked at her, a faint smile forming. "Because I couldn't save my daughter long ago. But maybe I can save someone else's." Ethan didn't trust easily. But something in her eyes, deep sadness mixed with fierce strength, made him lower his guard a little. He stood up, brushing off the dust. "If we're going to survive here, we'll need to work together." Sarai nodded. "The storms grow stronger each night. You'll need shelter." As the sun set again, they followed her through the old ruins. Strange symbols glowed faintly on broken walls, a dead language singing through the wind. Finally, they reached a half-buried structure shaped like a crystal dome, covered in vines and dust. "This was once the Hall of Light," Sarai said, her voice echoing with memories. Inside, the air was still, filled with ancient machines and flickering lights that hummed like sleeping stars. Ethan placed the broken transmitter on a table. "Can I use your power source?" he asked. Sarai touched a crystal on the wall, and the entire room lit up in blue fire. The light danced over their faces. Lily gasped in awe. "It's so pretty." Sarai smiled faintly. "It remembers us." As Ethan worked on his transmitter, Sarai stood by the window, watching the storm rise again. In the distance, shadows moved, dark figures gliding between the rocks. Her voice turned cold. "They're coming." Ethan looked up sharply. "Who?" "Hunters," she said. "Not beasts this time. Soldiers of the Solari Empire. They track all energy signals." She turned to him, her expression fierce. "You shouldn't have used your machine." The sound of engines echoed through the valley. Growing louder, Lily clung to her father's arm. Eyes wide with fear, Sarai moved fast, sealing the entrance with her staff, symbols glowing bright. "They will break through soon," she said, her voice steady. Ethan grabbed his blaster. "You said this place was safe." Sarai looked at him, her silver eyes burning with resolve. "No place is safe when the past hunts you." The walls shook, dust falling from the ceiling. Outside, voices shouted in an alien tongue, metal boots striking the ground. Sarai turned to Lily and knelt, her hand resting on the child's cheek. "Stay behind me, little one," she whispered. And whatever happens, don't be afraid. Ethan stepped beside her. His weapon ready for the first time human and alien stood shoulder to shoulder, not as enemies, but as protectors. The doors exploded open, light and fire filling the hall. Figures in dark armor stormed in, their faces hidden behind glowing masks. Sarai's staff flared with energy. Casting long shadows across the walls, Ethan fired, blaster shots echoing through the chamber. Lily screamed as sparks rained down. Sarai's voice rose above the chaos, filled with fury and power. You will not take them. Lightning burst from her staff, throwing soldiers against the walls. The battle was fierce, violent, and beautiful, like two worlds colliding in flame. When it was over, smoke filled the air and silence returned. Sarai fell to one knee, weak but alive, her armor shattered. Ethan rushed to her side. Helping her stand, she looked at him, eyes tired but fierce. Now you see, human. Exile never ends. Outside, the storm raged again. But deep inside the Hall of Light, something new had been born. Trust, and with it, a dangerous bond that could either save or destroy them all. Hunters in the mist, the wind howled across the ruins, carrying with it a low, strange sound, like whispers made of smoke. Ethan's blaster clicked empty as he kicked away a fallen Solari soldier. Breathing hard, the room still glowed faintly from Sarai's magic. Blue light dancing on broken walls, Lily hid behind a stone pillar, eyes wide with fear but shining with a quiet courage her father didn't notice yet. The battle was over, but Sarai's words echoed in Ethan's mind. Exile never ends. Outside, the storm thickened into a pale gray fog. Covering everything, Sarai stood at the doorway, her silver hair moving in the cold wind, her face unreadable. Their scouts will come, she said, and when they do, they will not stop. Ethan looked out into the mist, his jaw tight. Then we move before they find us. Sarai's eyes turned toward the horizon. The mist moved like it was alive, hiding more than shadows. It's not that simple, she whispered. The mist is alive too. They gathered what little they could, a few energy cells. Sarai's staff and the transmitter parts Ethan refused to leave behind. Lily clutched the metal feather she had found earlier. Keeping it close to her heart, Sarai noticed and spoke softly. That feather belonged to the Guardians of Light, protectors of my people. Before the war, Lily smiled. Then maybe it's lucky. Sarai didn't answer, but her eyes softened. They stepped into the fog, moving through the ancient streets of the dead city. Massive statues loomed around them. Alien kings and warriors turned to stone, their faces half buried in the sand. Every sound echoed like footsteps behind them. Though no one was there, Ethan's hand stayed near his weapon. His nerves sharp, Sarai's staff glowed faintly, lighting the path, but the glow seemed to draw attention from something unseen. A faint hiss came from the mist. Low and wet, Ethan froze. Did you hear that? Sarai nodded, her voice quiet. Hunters. Before Ethan could speak, a shape moved, tall, thin, crawling on four legs with eyes like blue fire. It wasn't Solari. It wasn't human. Sarai raised her staff, whispering words in her ancient tongue. A shield of light appeared, but the creature slammed into it. Cracking it like glass, Lily screamed, and Ethan pulled her close. Firing wildly into the mist, one creature fell, but two more appeared, their movements silent, almost graceful. Sarai fought like a storm, light flashing from her hands, the air vibrating with power. Ethan backed toward the ruins, pulling Lily with him. Keep close, he shouted. Sarai turned, shouting over the wind. Run to the beacon tower. I'll hold them off. But Lily refused to move, her small voice breaking through the chaos. No. You'll die. The sound of the child's cry hit Sarai like a pulse through her chest. She looked down at Lily, this tiny human who had called her mom in the firelight, and something inside her broke. Her strength flared brighter, energy bursting from her palms, pushing the monsters back. Ethan grabbed Lily's hand and ran, dragging her toward the tall silhouette in the distance and the tower Sarai had named. Behind them, lightning and screams filled the mist. The ground shook as alien magic clashed with ancient darkness. At the base of the tower, Ethan stumbled and fell, panting. He looked back. The mist glowed blue and silver as Sarai fought alone. Lily knelt beside him, tears on her face. She's still out there. Ethan looked down at his blaster, only 2 shots left. And then at his daughter. He had already lost one family once. He wasn't going to lose another. He stood. Stay here, Lily. Before she could speak, he ran back into the mist. The world inside the fog was madness. Shapes moving, whispers calling his name. He followed the flashes of Sarai's light until he found her, kneeling, blood running down her arm. Her staff dimming, 2 hunters circled her, their claws dripping black liquid. Without thinking, Ethan fired both shots. Hitting one in the chest, the creature exploded into light and smoke. The second lunged, but Sarai caught it mid-air. Twisting her hand, the thing froze, turned to stone, then crumbled into dust. Ethan helped her stand, his voice shaking. "We need to go." Sarai nodded weakly. "The mist is feeding on the dead. It will rise again soon." Together they stumbled through the fog, back toward the tower. When they reached it, Lily ran into Sarai's arms without hesitation. The queen froze again, then slowly wrapped her arms around the child. It was the first time in years someone had held her like that, and not because she was a queen, but because she was loved inside the tower. They found strange machinery still humming with life. Ethan pressed his hand against a console and it flickered on. Ancient symbols appeared, but Sarai could read them. "This is a relay," she said softly. "One that once connected to the stars." Ethan's eyes widened. "You mean we can send a signal to the human fleet?" Sarai nodded slowly. "If I can repair it. But if we activate it, the Empire will know I'm alive." Lily looked up at her, eyes bright. "Then they'll come for you." Sarai met Ethan's gaze, her voice calm but strong. "They will come for us." Outside, the fog swirled again, this time glowing red, and far away, the echo of engines filled the sky. The hunters had only been the beginning. Something far worse was coming. Sarai looked up toward the storm clouds, her voice low but steady. "They found us again." And in that moment, the human, the alien queen, and the little girl stood together, 3 hearts against a galaxy that wanted them gone. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel like a survivor. He felt like part of something worth fighting for. Secrets of the Starforge. The tower hummed with ancient life, deep vibrations pulsing through its crystal walls. Ethan stood beside the glowing console, wires sparking under his hands as he tried to understand alien technology far beyond him. Sarai moved like a shadow around the edges of the chamber, her fingertips tracing the carvings, faces of her ancestors, kings and queens who had shaped the stars. Lily watched them both, silent but wide-eyed, clutching the silver feather she now wore on a string around her neck. "This place feels alive," Ethan whispered. Sarai nodded, her voice soft but heavy. "It was built with living energy, not machines. It listens. It remembers." She touched a rune and the air shimmered, revealing a floating image. A map of the galaxy, spinning in slow motion. Lily gasped. "It's so beautiful." Sarai's expression darkened. "Beautiful and broken." Half the map glowed red, burning stars, shattered worlds. Ethan frowned. "What happened here?" Sarai turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the dying stars. "My people built the Starforge, a great machine that could heal suns, create worlds, and give life itself." She paused, her voice trembling. "But when war came, they twisted it. They made it a weapon." Ethan felt a chill run through him. "You mean they used it to destroy planets?" Sarai nodded slowly. "Including yours." The silence that followed was deep, the kind that hurts. Ethan stepped back, his fist tightening. "You knew?" Her gaze stayed firm. "I learned too late. I tried to stop it. That's why I was exiled." Lily's small voice broke the tension. "So the forge can fix stars again?" Sarai turned toward her, the faintest smile touching her lips. "If we can reach it, yes. But it lies beyond the shattered belt, a graveyard of ships and lost souls." Ethan's heart pounded. "Then that's where we're going." Before Sarai could answer, the tower lights flickered. A cold vibration filled the air. Like distant thunder, Sarai's face turned pale. "They're tracing the relay signal." Ethan moved to the window above the clouds. A massive ship descended, dark and angular, marked with a Solari Imperial sigil, the same symbol carved on Sarai's armor. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "The High Command." The tower shook as energy bolts struck its side, stone and dust raining down. Sarai grabbed Lily and pulled her close. "We have to move." Ethan smashed the console, ripping free the glowing crystal core. "This should power the ship." Sarai's eyes widened. "You're insane." He smiled grimly. "Maybe, but I'm human." They raced down the stairs, through winding tunnels glowing blue with old energy. Above them, engines roared, soldiers dropping from the ship in waves of light. Sarai led them through a narrow passage, her staff glowing brighter. Lily clung to her hand, trying not to cry. Ethan followed behind, carrying the heavy crystal in his arms, every sound echoing like a countdown. They burst into a vast underground hall, ancient machinery stretching for miles. It looked like a sleeping heart of metal and light. Sarai's voice trembled with awe. This is part of the forge, a forgotten gate that can open the path to its core. Ethan set the crystal in the socket she pointed to, and the whole chamber woke. The ground vibrated, energy rising through the floor. Columns lit up one by one, forming a circle around them. Lily covered her ears, the sound growing louder. Sarai shouted above the roar, "It's connecting!" Once it stabilizes, we can cross. But before she could finish, the ceiling cracked, enemy fire raining down. Solari soldiers dropped into the hall, their armor shining gold. Their leader stepped forward, tall, with the same royal markings as Sarai, but colder, crueler. His voice echoed through the hall. "Sister, your exile ends today." Sarai's face turned pale, her heart freezing at the sound of his voice. "Kyle." Ethan looked between them. "Your brother?" Kyle smiled thinly. "The last of the royal blood, and the one who will erase your shame." He looked at Ethan and Lily, eyes burning. "You dare walk with the enemy of our kind." Sarai stepped between them, her staff blazing. "They are under my protection." Kale's voice hardened. "Then you will die with them." The room exploded into chaos, beams of light, blasts of energy. Ethan fired into the soldiers, but they kept coming. Sarai and Kale clashed in the center, their staffs striking with thunderous force. Each blow sent ripples through the chamber. Shaking the ground, Lily hid behind the console, whispering, "Please don't die, Mom." The gate behind them began to stabilize. Glowing like a star being born, Sarai fell to one knee. Kale's blade pressed to her throat, he whispered, "You chose them over your own blood." She looked up, her voice soft but unbreakable. "No, brother. I chose life." A surge of power burst from her body, throwing him backward. The floor cracked, and the gate burst open like a sun. Ethan grabbed Lily and Sarai, shouting, "Now!" They jumped through the light as Kale's scream echoed behind them. The world twisted, color, sound and time tearing apart, then suddenly silence. They fell onto a floating platform surrounded by infinite light, a place between galaxies. Above them, a colossal structure turned slowly, a sphere of fire and crystal. Beating like a living heart, Sarai stood, eyes wide with both awe and fear. "The Starforge," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "It still breathes." Ethan looked at her, panting. "Then let's fix it." Sarai's gaze stayed on the glowing machine, her expression unreadable. "Yes," she said softly, "but if we touch it, it might fix us too, or destroy everything." And as the great machine pulsed with life, Lily looked up at it, unaware that the choice her new family would make here would decide the fate of two worlds. The betrayal. The light of the Starforge burned like a sunrise inside eternity. Ethan shielded his eyes as glowing rivers of energy flowed beneath the glass platform. The air was heavy, alive, every breath humming with power. Sarai stood at the edge, her silver hair floating weightlessly, her eyes filled with both awe and sorrow. "This place," she whispered, "was never meant to be touched by mortals." Lily clung to her father's arm, her small voice trembling. "Are we safe here?" Ethan forced a smile, though his heart raced. "As long as we stay together, yes." But Sarai didn't answer, her gaze fixed on the heart of the forge, a colossal sphere pulsing like it had its own heartbeat. Lines of alien script glowed across the walls, moving like veins of fire. Each pulse sent a shock through the ground. Ethan looked around nervously. "It's unstable." Sarai nodded. "It's awakening." She stepped forward, placing her hand on a glowing console. The entire chamber responded, light wrapping around her body like threads of silk. The forge began to speak, a soft, deep voice made of echoes. "Bearer of the royal code," it said, "you returned to finish what was begun." Sarai's eyes widened. "No, I came to undo it." The voice ignored her words. "The sequence cannot be broken." Ethan took a step closer. "Sarai, what is it saying?" She turned to him, fear flashing in her eyes. "It remembers the war. It still sees humans as enemies." Lily tugged on her arm. "But you can tell it we're friends, right?" Sarai looked at her, This child who had brought light into her exile and whispered, "I will try." She pressed both hands onto the console, her body glowing brighter. Images filled the air, burning cities, collapsing stars, soldiers screaming across worlds. Ethan watched, horrified. "That's Earth," Sarai's voice shook. "Yes, the Forge keeps every memory, every death, every fire we started." Her eyes filled with tears. "We built a god and then we asked it to kill for us." Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the chamber. Ethan spun around, blaster readies, and froze. From the far side of the platform, a portal of blue fire opened. Out stepped Kale, Sarai's brother. His golden armor cracked, his eyes blazing with rage. "Did you really think you could escape me, sister?" Sarai's breath caught. "Kale, how did you—" He lifted a small device in his hand, pulsing red. "You left me in the gate's wake, but the blood of kings cannot die so easily." Ethan raised his weapon. "Stay back." Kale smiled coldly. "A human. Always so brave. Always so foolish." He looked at Sarai. "You brought them here, to our holy creation. You betray everything we were." Sarai's voice trembled. "You betrayed life when you turned it into a weapon." Kyle laughed, the sound echoing off the endless metal. "And yet here you are, trying to use the same weapon to save them." He took a slow step closer. "Tell me, sister, when this forge awakens again, what will it choose, peace or power?" Ethan moved between them. "You're not touching her." Kale tilted his head, amused. "You'd die for her? For this alien queen?" Ethan's eyes were steady. "I'd die for what's right." Kale's smile vanished. "Then die for her lie." Before anyone could react, Kyle pressed the red device. The forge screamed, light bursting from every wall. The platform shook violently and Sarai fell to her knees. Clutching her chest, Ethan ran to her. "What's happening?" Her voice broke. "He's merging with it. He's trying to take control." Kale's body glowed, his armor melting into the machine, his voice echoing across the chamber. "I will finish what our kind began. The galaxy will kneel again." The forge answered with a deep rumble, its lights turning from blue to crimson. Sarai gasped. "He's binding his soul to the core. If we don't stop him, he'll become part of the forge itself." Ethan looked around, desperate. "How do we stop it?" Sarai grabbed his arm, her eyes glowing faintly. "There is one way, but it will cost me everything." Lily's voice cut through the noise. "No, you promised you wouldn't leave us." Sarai knelt, touching the girl's cheek. "I will never leave you, little one, not truly." She turned to Ethan, her voice calm now. "When the forge opens its heart, you must pull the core crystal. It will sever Kale's link. And mine?" Ethan shook his head. "No, we'll find another way." Sarai smiled sadly. "There is no other way, human. The forge knows my blood. Only I can hold it back." The ground split open, molten light flooding the air. Kale's voice boomed from above. "You cannot win, sister. You were born to rule, not to serve." Sarai raised her staff high, light bursting from its tip. "Then I will serve life itself." A beam of white fire struck the sky, cutting through Kale's energy field. He screamed, his voice twisting into static. "You will die for this." Ethan grabbed the crystal core and pulled with all his strength. The forge roared like a living storm, light tearing through every surface. Sarai looked one last time at Lily, smiling through her tears. "Be brave, my daughter," she whispered. Then the light consumed her. A blinding flash erupted, the sound of thunder swallowing everything. Ethan and Lily were thrown back as the platform cracked and collapsed beneath them. When the light finally faded, the forge was silent. Kale was gone, his armor shattered to dust. Sarai lay motionless at the center, her staff broken beside her. Lily crawled to her, shaking. "Mom, please wake up." Ethan knelt beside her, tears running down his face. The queen's eyes opened one last time, faintly glowing, soft and peaceful. She whispered, "You are both my light, my family." And then, like a falling star, she faded into shimmering dust that drifted into the air. The forge dimmed, its voice fading to silence. Ethan wrapped his arm around Lily as she cried. The stars outside began to change, the red light fading, the galaxy breathing again. Sarai's sacrifice had restored balance, but the cost was written in their hearts. Ethan looked up at the glowing sky, whispering, "She didn't betray us. She saved us all." Lily held the silver feather tight in her small hand, and for the first time it began to glow. The voice of the forge whispered softly, "The Queen of Exile lives on and in those who remember." And somewhere in the endless light, a faint echo of Sarai's laughter drifted through the stars. The battle of two worlds. The stars were silent after Sarai's light vanished. Ethan and Lily drifted in the darkness, the broken remains of the Starforge floating around them like shattered glass. The air inside their escape pod was thin, the hum of life support weak. Lily sat in her father's lap, clutching the glowing silver feather, the last piece of Sarai's spirit. Her small voice trembled. "Daddy, where did she go?" Ethan's heart ached, but he forced a calm tone. "She's still with us, sweetheart, in here," he said, tapping his chest outside. The galaxy burned quietly, half the stars dimmed, the other half flickering like candles in wind. But something deeper stirred beyond the light. A storm not yet over. The radio cracked with static. Ethan turned it on, and a broken human voice came through. "This is Aurora Station. Any survivors respond?" He froze, eyes wide. The human fleet thought lost after the war was alive. "This is Ethan Cross," he shouted. "We're here. We found the forge." Static answered him, then another voice. "Stay where you are. Command wants the forge's coordinates." Ethan hesitated, looking at Lily, then at the glowing feather. Something in his gut whispered that it wasn't over. He pressed the button, his voice hard. "Negative. You don't understand what's down here." But the response was colder, mechanical. "All assets linked to the forge are property of the Human Alliance. Stand by for retrieval." The pod trembled as tractor beams locked on, pulling them toward a colossal human warship rising from hyperspace. Ethan's chest tightened. "They think it's a weapon." Lily looked up. "But Sarai said it can fix things." Ethan nodded slowly. "And they'll never let it." Moments later, they were aboard, surrounded by soldiers in black armor. A tall officer stepped forward, her expression sharp. "Engineer Cross, you were declared dead 6 months ago." Ethan's voice stayed steady. "I was, until I met someone who showed me the truth." The officer's eyes narrowed. "The alien queen." Ethan didn't answer, but his silence was enough. She turned to her comm. "Prepare the fleet. We're taking control of the forge immediately." As they walked through the ship's corridors, screens flickered with images of the forge's remains, and something strange. From the debris, red energy was gathering again, pulsing like a heartbeat. Lily tugged on Ethan's sleeve, whispering, "Daddy, it's waking up." He turned and his breath caught. The energy was forming into a shape, tall and burning. Kyle, somehow, his soul had survived inside the forge's fragments. And now he was calling across space to someone who would listen. Alarms blared across the fleet. "Unidentified energy surge," a soldier shouted. Outside, the wreckage twisted together, rebuilding itself. The Starforge reborn, now crimson with rage. Kale's voice thundered through every speaker. "You thought you could destroy me, sister? You only set me free." Lily covered her ears, tears streaming down her face. "He sounds angry." Ethan's eyes hardened. "He's more than angry. He's becoming the forge." The fleet opened fire, but the blasts bent around Kale's new form. He was part machine, part god. Light and fury mixed together. Sarai's sacrifice had stopped him once, but her power was gone. Ethan slammed his fist against the console. "We need Sarai. We can't win this without her." Lily's feather glowed brighter. A voice, soft but familiar, filled the air. "Then call me," Ethan froze. The feather floated from Lily's hands, shining with silver fire. The ship's lights dimmed, and for a moment, the stars outside slowed. Then, a figure began to form. Her voice gentle, her eyes like dawn. Sarai stood there, made of light and memory. Lily gasped, "Mom." Sarai smiled faintly. "You called me back, little one." But not for long. Ethan stepped forward. "Kale's taking control. He's using the forge to destroy both our worlds." Sarai's expression turned grave. "Then we end it together." She looked at Lily, kneeling to meet her gaze. "Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's love that stands against it." Then she placed her glowing hand over Lily's heart, and the child's eyes shimmered with light. "When the time comes," Sarai whispered, "you will know what to do." Outside, the forge unleashed its power, tearing through fleets of ships, human and Solari alike. Worlds trembled as Kale's laughter filled the void. "I am the will of the stars." "Kneel or burn," Sarai's voice rose, calm and defiant. You were the will of pride, but now face the will of love. She extended her arms, and light poured from her, merging with the human ship's engines. The vessel turned into a comet of silver fire, racing straight toward the forge. Inside the cockpit, Ethan took the controls. Sarai's spirit beside him. Lily stood between them, her small hands glowing faintly, the silver feather now burning like a tiny sun. Now, Lily, Sarai's voice whispered. Set me free again. The child pressed her palms together, and light burst outward. Pure, warm, endless. For the first time, Kale faltered, his monstrous form cracking. He screamed, You can't stop me! Sarai's spirit appeared before him, not in rage, but in sorrow. I never wanted to, she said softly. I only wanted to forgive you. She touched his chest, and the forge exploded into light. The blast swallowed everything. Human ships, alien fleets, even the stars seemed to vanish into white silence. Then slowly, light returned. The forge was gone. But the sky was whole again. New stars burned where old ones had died, and on a quiet moon orbiting near the ruins, a pod landed softly. Ethan stepped out. Holding Lily in his arms, above them the night was peaceful. No war, no machines, only stars that looked new. Lily looked up, her eyes bright. Is she gone, Daddy? Ethan smiled faintly, tears glimmering. No, sweetheart. She became the light that fixed everything. The silver feather still glowed on Lily's neck, pulsing softly with each heartbeat. Far above, in the silence of space, a whisper drifted, gentle, full of peace. Two worlds once at war, now share one heart. And as the stars burned brighter, Ethan knew the truth. Sarai hadn't died for them. She had lived for them, and her light would never fade. The whisper that changed the galaxy. The new dawn came quietly. The galaxy that once screamed in fire and war now glowed with soft light. Stars reborn, worlds awakening from centuries of silence. But beneath that peace, whispers traveled through the void. Carried by the winds of memory, they spoke of a human man, a small child, and an alien queen made of light who had changed the destiny of all life. On the silver blue moon where Ethan and Lily now lived, the air was cool and filled with songs of strange birds. It had been months since the battle, though time itself felt gentler here. Ethan worked near a small cottage made of ship metal and crystal stones. Fixing a broken transmitter, Lily played near the water's edge, her laughter mixing with the soft hum of the tide. Yet every time the wind passed through the trees, Ethan swore he could hear a voice, faint, kind, eternal Sarai's voice that evening. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the feather around Lily's neck began to glow again. Daddy, she whispered. She's calling. Ethan turned, his breath catching. The air shimmered, and for a moment, a figure appeared at the edge of the forest made of starlight and wind. Sarai. Her silver form flickered gently, eyes filled with warmth and peace. Hello, my loves, she said softly. Lily ran to her, her hands passing through the light but feeling warmth anyway. I missed you, Mom, Sarai smiled, and I never stopped watching. Ethan stepped closer, his voice trembling. Is it really you? Sarai nodded faintly. Part of me remains, and in the forge's new heart. The rest is here, where you are, for a moment. None of them spoke. It was enough, this quiet, this reunion made of love stronger than death. But then the ground trembled, the sky darkened, and thunder rolled across the horizon. Sarai turned sharply, her expression changing from peace to warning. It's not over, she whispered. Something still stirs in the void. Ethan frowned. I thought Kale was gone. Sarai's voice was low. He is. But his followers were many. Warriors blinded by the old ways. They seek to rebuild the empire in his name. Lightning flashed across the sky, and above the moon massive ships appeared, dark and cold. Human and Solari war remnants, united under no flag, moving toward each other like shadows of the past. Sarai looked at Ethan, her tone urgent. You must stop them before they destroy what we fought for. He shook his head. I'm just an engineer. Sarai stepped closer, her eyes glowing. You are more. You are proof that two hearts can become one. Ethan looked at Lily, who now stood tall, her feathers shining brighter than ever. The light pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. He understood then. Sarai hadn't left her power behind. She had given it to Lily. Lily, Sarai said softly, you have the gift of balance, and you carry the song of both worlds. The little girl nodded slowly. Then I'll make them listen. Ethan's eyes filled with pride and fear. You can't go alone, Sarai smiled faintly. She won't be alone, she looked at him, her hand reaching out like a beam of light. Your strength built the bridge. Ethan, hers will keep it standing. Moments later, the human fleet and the Solari remnants faced each other in orbit. Thousands of ships ready to fire. Old anger burned in every commander's voice. Destroy them before they strike first, shouted a human general. Cleanse the galaxy of their machines, cried a Solari warlord. But before the first shot was fired, a small shuttle rose between them, glowing with silver light. Inside it, Lily stood, her feather now a radiant crystal above her heart. Ethan's voice came through the comms, steady and calm. This war ends now. The fleets ignored him until Lily began to speak, her voice echoing in every frequency. 2 worlds fought and bled because they forgot something, she said. They forgot what it means to protect, not to rule. Her eyes glowed brighter, and Sarai's spirit appeared behind her like wings made of light. You all came from the same stars, Lily continued. And those stars are tired of watching you die. The light spread from her ship, touching every vessel, human, alien, broken, and whole. Weapons went silent, engines dimmed, and even the stars seemed to pause inside each mind. Memories surfaced, of laughter, of family, of moments before hate had taken everything. Generals dropped their weapons, tears falling. For the first time in centuries, silence became peace. On the moon below, Ethan watched through the open sky, his heart pounding. The fleet slowly drifted apart, their weapons lowering. The voice of the human admiral came through, rough and shaking. We stand down. Then a Solari commander's voice followed. So do we. Lily smiled faintly, whispering, she did it. Mom, you did it. Sarai's image began to fade, her voice soft and full of pride. No, you did. The light around Lily dimmed gently, settling back into her chest as the fleets began to disperse. Ethan looked up at the stars, brighter now, cleaner, as if the galaxy itself could finally breathe again. That night, the 3 of them stood together one last time, Sarai's spirit glowing faintly beneath the twin moons. Lily held her parents' hands, one made of flesh, one made of light. Sarai smiled, her voice like a song. Remember this, my loves. A whisper can change the universe if it comes from the heart. Her form dissolved into 1,000 sparks that rose into the sky, joining the stars she once ruled. Years later, across countless worlds, monuments were built not to soldiers or kings, but to a child's whisper that united enemies. And every year, under twin suns, people of every race gathered to repeat her words. Mom, she's the one, because from that whisper, 2 worlds learned to love again and the galaxy was never the same.